All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are cracking open the latest quarterly report from Adani Ports, or APSEZ. And look, this is way more than just a spreadsheet with numbers. We're talking about a company that is at the absolute heart of India's entire trade and logistics machine. So, let's get to it. So here's our game plan. First, we'll get a handle on just how big this company is. Then, we'll jump into the key numbers from the quarter. After that, we're going to uncover what's really fueling their growth, check out their big strategic chess moves, touch on their green initiatives, and finally, see what they're planning for the future.
Okay, so first things first. Who exactly is Adani Ports? Because you can't really get what their performance means without first understanding their sheer size and role in the economy. You know, you hear the name Adani Ports and you think, okay, they run ports. Simple, right? Well, not so fast. The single most important thing to grasp here is that they see themselves as something way bigger these days.
They've got a name for it, an integrated transport utility. And honestly, this phrase is everything. It's their entire playbook. It means they're not just thinking about where the ship docks. No, they want to own the entire journey, from the port to the train to the warehouse, all the way to the final customer's gate. It's a huge strategic shift.
And their physical footprint? It's just immense. We're talking about a network of 15 ports and terminals that basically wrap around the entire Indian coastline, from the west coast to the east. And get this is the crazy part. They handle almost 28% of all the cargo that moves through India's ports. That's nearly a third of the country's entire trade volume. Just massive.
All right, so we know they're huge. But how did they actually do this past quarter? Let's get into the headline numbers from the report.
First up, the big one, revenue. A massive 21% jump compared to the same time last year. We're talking over 9,100 crore rupees in just 3 months. That is a seriously strong start to their financial year.
But revenue is one thing, right? What about actual profitability? Well, their EBITDA, which is a great way to see how the core business is running, that's up a very healthy 13%, hitting nearly 5,500 crore. The engine is definitely humming.
So what's the bottom line? The actual take-home profit. That saw a 7% increase, landing at over 3,300 crore. Now, they do note that this number would have actually been higher, but a big dividend payment that was counted in last year's first quarter got shifted to the second quarter this year. So, something to keep in mind.
And this chart really puts that revenue growth in perspective, doesn't it? Just look at that jump from around 7,500 crores last year to over 9,100 crores this year. So the obvious question is, what's fueling this? Where's all this extra cash really coming from?
And that right there is the real story of this quarter. It's the secret sauce. This growth isn't just about more ships and more containers. No, there's something much more fundamental happening with their business.
The CEO, Ashwani Gupta, absolutely nails it with this quote. He's basically saying, hey, you know those little side businesses we had? Well, they're not on the side anymore. They're becoming the main event and changing our whole company.
And here they are, the growth engines. I mean, just look at these numbers. Their logistics business, we're talking trains, trucks, warehouses, the whole shebang, its revenue doubled. And their marine services, the tugboats and pilotage, that revenue nearly tripled. Tripled! That's just wild growth.
So what does this do to their business mix, the whole pie? Well, you can see right here. Logistics is now 13% of their revenue. Marine is another 6%. You add that up, and you've got almost 20%, nearly a fifth of their total income coming from things that aren't their traditional port operations. That integrated transport utility idea, this is what it looks like in action.
Okay, so this kind of growth doesn't just happen by accident. They are making some really big strategic moves to make it a reality. Let's quickly run through the highlights of what they actually did this past quarter.
Man, they were busy. They fired up a brand new, fully automated terminal in Colombo, Sri Lanka, a huge step for their international plans. Back in India, they beefed up capacity at their Dhamra port. Then their board gave the green light to buy a major export terminal down in Australia. On the financial side, they smartly shuffled their debt to give themselves more breathing room. And to top it all off, their port in Haifa, Israel, had its best quarter ever, despite all the challenges in the region. Just incredible.
Now, whenever you see a company expanding at this pace, you have to ask the question, right? What about the environmental impact?
So let's take a quick look at what they're saying and doing on the sustainability front.
Let's just put the question out there, head on. Is all this industrial growth coming at a cost to the planet? It's a fair question, and to their credit, they dedicate a good chunk of their report to trying to answer it.
And here's their case, laid out with some concrete examples. They earned a leader rating from the Carbon Disclosure Project for their supply chain. 12 of their ports are now certified as zero waste to landfill. They're rolling out new electric-powered cranes to cut down on fossil fuels. And this one is pretty cool. At their Haziro port, they actually built a road using steel slag, which is an industrial waste product. So turning waste into useful infrastructure.
All right, let's bring it all home now and look to the future. Based on this quarter, where does Adani Ports see itself going for the rest of the year? Here's the official guidance from management. They're aiming to handle a staggering amount of cargo, over 500 million metric tons. They're projecting revenue to hit somewhere between 36,000 and 38,000 crore, and operational profit, that EBITDA, between 21,000 and 22,000 crore. To make it happen, they're planning to plow up to 12,000 crore right back into the business. It's definitely ambitious, but after the quarter they just had, you can see why they're feeling confident.
And that leaves us with one big final thought to chew on. We've seen the numbers, we've seen the strategy. This company is clearly transforming from a port operator into an end-to-end logistics machine. So the question to ask yourself is this: as one of India's most critical infrastructure companies makes this shift, what could that mean for the future of trade, for the efficiency, the cost, and the control of it all, not just for India, but for the entire region? That's the big question. Thanks for tuning into The Explainer.